Hey everybody, hi, how is it going? This is going to be a video that serves two purposes. One, to explain why I've taken a lot of content out regarding my son. And two, I hope that it just brings a bit more awareness as to what we do with our children, the content that we create. I've known for the longest time that a lot of YouTubers, they don't really share a lot about their families, and I get it. It's because there's a certain level of privacy and a certain level of protection that you have when you don't give out too much information. I mean, that just goes without saying. I wanted to really showcase my family. I love to do everything with my husband and my son. You know, we're just like a package deal. I tend to share a lot of content that features my son, that features my husband. Recently, I had watched a movie called Sound of Freedom, and it really impacted me. And there are many ways that it impacted me. It gave me an awareness to what's going on in the world as far as child sex trafficking. It also brought a lot of awareness, and I found myself researching on the subject matter more because it happens locally. Child sex trafficking in general happens on a local level, and so it's not just something that just happens in Colombia and, you know, I'm like sympathizing for Colombians. No, it happens in my own backyard. I mean, if I were to be honest, there could be even child predators in the complex that I live. And one of the things that I had stumbled upon that I really didn't quite think about until now is the content that is out there for children, because predators are just stark hungry, vicious, vile monsters who are just scouring the internet, finding something to alleviate, to just totally like break apart these children. It could be that they could stumble upon one of my son's videos. I absolutely do not want that to happen. I absolutely don't want my son to be a part of feeding any inkling of any predator out there that would ever try to, even as to like imagine the likeness of my son. I will not tolerate it. And so I decided to take off everything from that he's in. And it's sad because he's an adorable little kid. I love him to bits and pieces, of course. As someone who is living in these days, we need to protect our children. We need to watch what we post about them. And I used to post a lot of like content on my Instagram about my son, and I am backscaling that majorly. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying. You probably think that I am like being paranoid. I would have agreed with you if it were 10 years ago. Heck man, if it were 20 years ago, I would have agreed with you that this would be a very paranoiish thing to do for a mother to do. But we live in these days. We live in these times. These times are so different than 5 years ago even. There are people who are affirming the stark hungry demonic desires of these people. Like psychologists and people are actually coming out and affirming, oh yeah, that's completely normal, you know, that's just that's okay. I decided to go through my Instagram friends list and not only unfollow those people that I have no clue who they are, but I made them unfollow me. So I have less followers, way less people I'm following, and I think that every single mother should do the same. Every single father should do the same. But really, honestly, these are the times that we live in. I'd rather be overly cautious than be sorry that a predator got his hands, his filthy, dirty hands, on a content that has my son in it or has a child in it. And I see a ton of content on Instagram. Like, I see like a hell of a lot of content on Instagram involving children, little kids. It came out recently that Instagram's algorithms favor predators. So what do you think all of those little kitty, child, baby posts, they are attracting predators. I took down the content that my son was in, including some really precious videos that I thought were like really great, you know, and I wouldn't have mind at all leaving them up, but I had to be extra cautious on that. So you're gonna have content that might blur out my son like this, or might not even show my son at all. And I will end with a story that I heard this past weekend. It was a story, there was a couple that was going through, I guess, social media, and then they came across a story. And the story was about, you know, this girl, and she wanted to go to sleepovers. And her father was like, no sleepovers, you're not going to any sleepover. And this girl, who was like a preteen, teenager at the time, she hated her dad. She said, I hate you, Dad, because you don't let me do what my friends are doing. They're going through sleepovers. They get to have fun. Why don't I have fun? And the dad says, you know what? You might hate me, but you're still not going to those sleepovers. Final words. So she hated her dad for like how many years? I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, right? She hated her dad because her dad did not let her have any sleepovers or go to any sleepovers. And that was considered extreme to her, because why would she not be allowed to go to a sleepover when all of her friends are sleeping over? Like, what the heck is that, right? So she was really upset about that, like, for how many years? So she goes, well, when I turn 18, I'm going to go to a sleepover. And then her dad says, yeah, you're an adult. At 18, you can go sleepovers, but you're not going to go to a sleepover as long as you're in my care under my roof. Okay, so many of you already are thinking that that's already too extreme. You're thinking like, wow, that's just like strict, man. You know, strict. Well, come to find out, this girl turns 18 and she's like, finally, I get to go to a sleepover. So she tells her dad straight up, says, Dad, I'm going to a sleepover. I'm 18 now, I can do it. And her dad says, yeah, that's true, you can go to your sleepover. So she goes to her sleepover. Very next morning, the dad gets a phone call and his daughter is crying. And then the dad's like, what's wrong? You know, what's going on? And she says, Dad, I'm very grateful that you did what you did, because I told all my friends at the sleepover that, you know what, I'm glad I'm here because my dad didn't let me go to sleepovers when I was younger. All of the girls that were in that sleepover, they broke out in tears. They broke out crying because all of those girls shared the account of how they were sexually molested, assaulted, or raped during the sleepovers that they went to. And they told this one girl, they says, I wish I had a dad like yours. I wish my dad cared enough to not let me go to those sleepovers because I got raped because of it, or I got molested, or I got sexually assaulted. So the girl came crying to her dad, crying and weeping and saying, Dad, please forgive me because I didn't value the standard that you placed on my life. I hated you all those years. I disagreed with you, but you stood your ground. Thank you, Dad. So I tell you this, your kid might hate you, your kid might fight, but what's more important, protecting their innocence? Or would you rather risk their likeness being passed on in the dark web, or heck man, in the regular internet for all these predators to salivate on? Would you rather have the likeness of your son, the likeness of your daughter being passed on through the whole entire intranet with these gruesome, ungodly, God-forsaken souls salivating at the very tips of their fangs, wanting your child, wishing for your child, and maybe even going as far as making an attempt to get your child? I know, that's where I'm coming from. So Mom. So that's why I had to do what I did, and I hope you understand. And we're gonna still have some fun content. It's just gonna be a little different.